I spent 25 years in an orphanage before being reclaimed by my family as their long-lost true heiress. They arranged a marriage alliance for me, but my originally betrothed fiancé Robert backed out, insisting on marrying that imposter Jessica instead. Just as I was plunged into despair, my longtime friend Benjamin stepped forward, marrying me to help me out of the predicament. Yet by chance I overheard a conversation between my former fiancé and my husband. Back then I followed your plan, first deliberately rejecting the marriage, then having that dramatic fight with you. Pretty convincing, wasn't it? The former fiancé sneered. Send her to the rural school and have the underworld give her a good scare. Jessica is in a much better mood now. As long as Jessica is happy, anything I do is worth it, the husband responded nonchalantly. So the friendship and love I had believed in so deeply turned out to be nothing more than an elaborately orchestrated scam. From start to finish, I was just a pawn in their hands, played like a fool. One rural school I was in charge of was still under construction when a group of underworld thugs stormed in, causing havoc and looting. I was forced to maintain the scene as they brutally broke my right hand, the pain nearly making me pass out. Leaving the hospital with my right arm in a thick cast, I rushed home in frantic desperation. Those gangsters were clearly targeting the Lin family. I ran all the way, terrified that my husband might be endangered because of me. Yet when I stood at our doorstep, I heard a familiar voice through the door. It was Robert, my former fiancé. Back then I listened to you and deliberately rejected the marriage with Sophia, even fought with you. Wasn't he that convincing enough? Robert's voice was full of a cold laugh, his tone dripping with smugness. Arranging for her to be sent to that rural school and having the underworld give her a scare has put Jessica in much better spirits. As long as Jessica is happy, anything I do is worth it, her husband Benjamin responded nonchalantly, his voice eerily calm without a ripple of emotion. My entire body trembled as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over me from head to toe, chilling me to the bone in an instant. I clamped my hand over my mouth with all my strength, terrified that even the slightest sound might alert those two men inside, both of whom had betrayed me so utterly. On the bus back to school, my mind was flooded with fragmented memories from all these years. I spent 25 years in the orphanage until the Lin family found me, claiming I was their long-lost biological heiress. They arranged a marriage alliance for me, but my fiancé Robert refused and insisted on marrying that fake heiress Jessica instead. Just as I was trapped in this predicament, my longtime friend Benjamin stepped forward, married me, and helped me out of this crisis. On my wedding day, I made a point to invite the director of the orphanage and all the friends I grew up with. Due to family connections, Robert also attended. Holding a wine glass, he sneered at me and the director. "Oh, we're drinking Romani Connie worth 200,000 a bottle. You country bumpkins from that shabby place, do you even know how to appreciate it?" His tone was dripping with contempt. The director and others flushed with embarrassment, awkwardly setting down their glasses, utterly at a loss for what to do. At that moment, Benjamin walked up to me and raised a toast to Uncle Dean. He said coldly to Robert, "It's just a drink, isn't it? What is the difference between this and beer or soda?" Belittling someone over such a trivial matter is downright despicable. Robert flushed red with anger and threw a punch at Benjamin. The two men came to blows, even tearing their bespoke suits in the scuffle. In the end, it was my parents who came out to mediate and pulled them apart. I had always thought they were like fire and water, unable to stand each other. Turns out the friendship and love I had believed in so deeply were nothing but an elaborately woven deception. From start to finish, I was merely a pawn in their hands, played like a fool. It wasn't until late at night that Benjamin's call finally came. His voice carried a hint of urgency. "Sophia, I heard someone caused trouble at your school. Are you alright?" Clutching the phone, I felt as if a blunt knife were sawing repeatedly at my heart, the pain so intense I could barely breathe. To please Jessica, he conspired with Robert, even going so far as to hire thugs to intimidate me. It was clearly me who got my arm broken in the beating, and clearly he had a hand in all this too. Now he is still pretending to care about me. I couldn't help but feel like sneering. My silence seemed to make him uneasy. His tone grew more urgent. "Sophia, are you okay? I heard your arm was broken. Is it serious? Should I come see you at school now?" I clenched my teeth, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's fine. I've already been to the hospital. It's late, and it's too much trouble. You're so busy at work you don't even have time to eat. So don't bother coming." I lay in bed, pulled up the covers, and closed my eyes, but my mind kept replaying all the events of these years like a movie. When I first stepped into the Lin family home, my parents welcomed me with an almost fervent enthusiasm filled with emotion. I thought they wanted to make up for all the lost time. But it didn't take long before they started pressuring me to marry Robert, when it suddenly dawned on me. The family's financial chain was in serious trouble, and they were counting on this marriage alliance to fill the enormous deficit. But what about Robert? He swore he would never marry me, insisting on marrying that fake heiress Jessica instead. The Roberts family eventually helped the Lins cover up that financial deficit. From then on, my parents became even more affectionate toward Robert and Jessica, treating them like the family treasures, while I was just the useless, worthless daughter. Later, I married Benjamin and worked day and night for the company, wanting my parents to see my dedication. I refused to let anyone look down on me. At first, life was relatively peaceful and uneventful. However, at a crucial moment during a roadshow with American partners, Jessica suddenly fainted on stage, and the presentation materials were leaked in advance. The company suffered enormous losses overnight, with its market value evaporating by billions. My younger sister repeatedly hinted that I was the one who leaked the materials, and even claimed to feel so guilty about the failed roadshow that she threatened to commit suicide. Unable to defend myself, I was banished by my family to the most remote rural school, which was still under construction and lacked basic necessities during busy periods. I even had to carry materials myself, leaving my hands covered in countless blisters. Benjamin vowed that once he settled matters at home, he would come to the school to accompany me. I waited for a whole month yet never even caught a glimpse of him. It turned out that from the very beginning Benjamin's heart had only ever belonged to Jessica. It turned out that between him and me there existed nothing but countless lies. To help Jessica win her parents' favor, he had Robert reject the arranged marriage with me, skillfully orchestrating Robert's union with Jessica instead. To secure my trust completely, Benjamin even went so far as to marry me using his own happiness as the price. Looking back now, that accident during the roadshow was likely the result of careful planning by him and the couple Jessica. They schemed meticulously, aiming to utterly destroy me so I could never compete with Jessica again. The dormitory at the rural school was bitterly cold, with wind creeping in through the cracks in the windows, leaving me shivering uncontrollably. But my heart grew colder still. I dialed the orphanage director's number. The familiar warmth in the voice on the other end broke me completely. Tears streamed down my face as my voice choked with sobs, barely able to form words. Uncle Director, I miss you all so much. I can't stay with the Lynn family any longer. At dawn the next day, I dragged my exhausted body to school. Sophia. Benjamin was standing at the door. He quickly walked over, his voice filled with concern. Sophia, how are you feeling now? I sneered inwardly. He had meticulously planned all of this, yet still pretended to care. For Jessica's sake, he had truly exhausted a lifetime's worth of acting skills. I said calmly, it's fine, they've already put on a cast, and the doctor said it will heal quickly. Perhaps I looked quite pitiful, my face pale, my arm wrapped in thick bandages. Benjamin's eyes still showed deep concern. With a somewhat apologetic and troubled expression, he said, I'm sorry, Sophia, I have company matters this afternoon, and can't stay with you today. I forced a smile and said softly, it's alright, you should hurry and take care of company matters. Carrying a pile of items, he replied, no rush, I'll make you something delicious before I leave. Before I could refuse, he had already headed toward the school dormitory. Not long after he left, Jessica appeared with an air of arrogance. She was dressed in an extravagant gown and looked me up and down with undisguised disdain. Dear sister, I heard you got beaten up. I came to take a good long look at you, she drawled, her voice dripping with mockery. Though my arm was broken, I was still doing hard labor clearing wasteland, my clothes covered in mud and grime, a pitiful sight. She casually lifted her hand, the sunlight glinting off the limited edition Van Cleef Arpels bracelet on her wrist, its exorbitant value immediately apparent. I once accidentally saw the box of this bracelet in the corner of the walk-in closet at home. Benjamin explained at the time it's a gift for a female client, but I never expected that the female client he mentioned would turn out to be Jessica. Noticing my gaze fixed on the bracelet, Jessica snorted coldly, curling her lips in disdain. Look at you, sister, so provincial. She slightly lifted her chin, her eyes filled with disdain. Covered in mud, looking so shabby, completely unfit for high society. If I were you, I would have hidden myself away long ago. How could you have the nerve to cling to the Lynn family like this? It's too embarrassing. She let out a cold snort, the corners of her lips curling into a mocking smile. So, what if you're the biological one? You still can't outdo me. I couldn't be bothered to engage with her any longer, and was about to turn away when a sudden scream came from the top floor. Danger, get out of the way. A truckload of red bricks cascaded down from the upper floor like a waterfall, sending dust flying as the bricks crashed onto the ground with loud thuds. Jessica screamed in terror. At the critical moment, Benjamin dashed over like lightning and yanked Jessica to safety. I instinctively dodged to the side, but I wasn't fast enough. A red brick landed heavily on my foot. The excruciating pain shot through my entire body like an electric current, leaving me speechless. I could only grit my teeth as cold sweat instantly broke out across my skin. Benjamin didn't even notice me. He nervously grabbed Jessica's arm and asked anxiously, Jessica, are you okay? Jessica gasped dramatically, her face twisting in exaggerated pain as she replied in a trembling voice, brother-in-law, it hurts so much. I think I sprained my ankle. Benjamin glanced at me, a complicated emotion flashing in his eyes. Sophia, your sister is injured. It's urgent. I'm taking her to the hospital immediately. I'll come see you tomorrow. With that, he didn't bother with formalities anymore, directly supporting Jessica as they left without looking back. I stood amidst the scattered bricks and dust, the pain in my feet making it almost impossible to stay upright. Looking down, I saw a pool of blood seeping into my shoe, the bright red stark against the dull gray ground. The next moment, I could no longer hold on. My body swayed violently before I collapsed onto the ground. The school teachers were terrified. They helped me into a car and rushed me to the nearest clinic at full speed. The clinic doctor paled at the sight of my bloodied, mangled foot. The injury is too severe. We must get her to the city hospital immediately. The teachers frantically transferred me to the city hospital in a panic. All I could see was a hazy gray as my consciousness gradually faded until finally I sank into darkness. I was unconscious for a full day and night, waking up to find myself in a white hospital room. The doctor stood by the bedside, his face filled with helplessness and pity, sighing and shaking his head. It's too late. Your foot is too severely injured. We couldn't save it. We had to amputate half of your foot. We kept calling your family, but no one answered. The situation was urgent, so we proceeded with the surgery first. The hospital director, who had rushed over upon hearing the news, stood at the door just in time to hear the doctor's words. His lips trembled, but no words came out. He could only silently wipe away his tears. With great difficulty, I reached for the phone by my bedside, its screen filled with messages from Jessica. Big sis, our whole family is going to Europe for New Year's. You're not in a position to come a long while in the countryside, so just focus on your schoolwork with peace of mind. Mom and Dad said my birthday is coming up, and they're going to buy me a big house in Europe as a birthday present. In the photo, Jessica held a champagne glass, dressed in an expensive evening gown, standing on a luxury yacht with the azure sea and clear sky behind her. Surrounded tightly by her parents Robert and Benjamin, she was all smiles as they celebrated her 24th birthday. On my 25th birthday, I could only lie here, facing the reality of my amputated half foot. With trembling fingers, I made a voice call to Benjamin. The call connected briefly before being abruptly hung up, followed immediately by a voice message popping up. It was Jessica's voice, laced with a hint of flirtation and mockery. "Sis, your hubby's keeping me company, and we're having a blast. Stop calling already, just focus on your back-breaking work in the countryside." I tried calling my parents next, but every call was rejected. I put down my phone, feeling like my heart was being violently squeezed, and pummeled the pain, so intense I could barely breathe. For the following week, Jessica kept flooding social media with photos of family outings and lavish meals, tagging me in every single post. I ignored them all. Benjamin sent me a message. "Once your sister got frightened at the school construction site and is feeling down again, Mom and Dad want to cheer her up, and since her birthday is coming up, they chartered a flight to Europe for New Year. Don't overthink it. I bought you lots of presents. I'll give them to you when you come home." His tone carried deliberate gentleness, yet it struck me as utterly ironic. Overthink? What could I possibly overthink? They're one happy family, while I'm just the outsider they least need. A week later, I limped back to school. The place had been on vacation since the last incident, with not a soul in sight. A bolt of lightning split the sky as violent winds rose and torrential rain poured down. Standing in the rain, I smiled. On the other side, Benjamin's plane had just landed back in the country when he turned on his phone. The notifications for over a dozen missed calls chimed one after another. He called back, and his assistant's voice on the other end was filled with terror, choking back sobs. "Mr. Benjamin, it's terrible. The entire school building that the young lady was in charge of constructing has collapsed. She's been buried alive. She's gone." Benjamin stood frozen with the phone in his hand, as if struck by lightning, his mind completely blank. His eyes widened, his voice trembling with disbelief. "What did you say?" The rest of the family soon got the news as well. Just as they reached the parking lot, Benjamin suddenly snatched the keys from the driver, rushed to the car, and fumbled to start the engine. He floored the accelerator, the car speeding wildly, nearly running several red lights along the way. When he arrived at the construction site, the original building had completely collapsed, reduced to a pile of rubble. After the heavy rain, the ground was covered in mud and debris, the air thick with the pungent smell of dust and blood. Benjamin suddenly felt as if a chunk of his heart had been violently ripped out, the pain so intense he could barely breathe. Unable to control himself, he fell to his knees, his hands frantically clawing at the pile of stones, desperate to dig out even a shred of hope. His movements grew increasingly frantic, his nails breaking one by one against the hard rubble, blood dripping from his fingers into the mud. Jessica had arrived, too. She walked up to Benjamin and grabbed his arm, pouting. "Han, brother-in-law, stop digging. Sister is already gone. Let her rest in peace." But Benjamin seemed not to hear, continuing to dig madly through the wreckage. My parents stood by, sighing incessantly. A week later, Benjamin, having refused to eat or drink, finally collapsed at the construction site from exhaustion and was rushed to the hospital for intravenous nutrients. When he woke up, his assistant looked at him with worried eyes. "Mr. Benjamin, you're awake." Benjamin threw off the covers. "I need to find Sophia." The assistant held her down, hesitating to speak. "Mr. Benjamin, Lord Alexander and his wife have already held the funeral for the young mistress. They said if too much time passes, the young mistress as soul one t be able to rest in peace." Benjamin slumped back against the headboard, muttering to himself, No, Sophia isn't dead. She must still be alive." The assistant sighed softly. "My condolences." Benjamin stared blankly at the ceiling. After hesitating for a few seconds, the assistant spoke up. "Mr. Benjamin, on my way here, I saw something online. Maybe you should take a look." Puzzled, Benjamin took out his phone and discovered someone had uploaded a video. It was during the wedding, when he and Robert were in the smoking room. Robert took a puff of his cigar and said in a frivolous tone, "Later I'll go pick a fight with that Sophia and give those poor wretches from the orphanage a good scolding. Then you show up and speak up for them. That woman Sophia will be so grateful to you, and things will be much easier to handle afterward." Benjamin remained silent for a moment before replying softly, "Fine. If this helps Jessica, then so be it." Robert snorted coldly. "Jessica's been fooling around so much out there. I have my own reasons for marrying her. From now on, she can do her thing, and I'll do mine. If you two want to sleep together, just don't let me see it." Benjamin's face instantly darkened. "I don't have those kinds of thoughts. I just want her to be happy." Robert scoffed, a man in his 20s or 30s pretending to be so innocent. All right, I'm heading out first. Remember what I said." Seized the right moment to appear. The video instantly went viral, causing an uproar among the public. The two sons-in-law of the Lin group turned out to be such people. One enjoys playing with mixed-race models, while the other harbors improper intentions toward his sister-in-law. The Lin family was instantly engulfed in a massive public scandal, their stock prices plummeting amid a storm of criticism. By the time I heard these news, I was already in the southernmost city of the country. This video was accidentally discovered by Mary from the orphanage while cleaning the surveillance hard drive. Consider it my final gift to Benjamin and the Lin family. 6 after the amputation surgery, my foot was permanently damaged, leaving me with a permanent limp whenever I walk. Every time I go out, people always cast sympathetic or strange glances my way, which makes me feel a bit stifled, but I've long grown accustomed to such looks. After all, life must go on. I opened a pottery studio in the city. Back at the orphanage, the director taught us pottery, making little did I know this skill would become my profession today. There's a little girl named Evelyn in the studio who is particularly adorable, always sneaking glances at my legs with her big eyes. One day, she couldn't hold back anymore and asked me, Teacher Sophia, what happened to your leg? Why do you have to wear that metal frame on it? I softly explained to her I injured my foot before, and this metal frame helped stabilize my ankle at LL retire next year. I've already scheduled a titanium alloy brace, and things will improve significantly after next year's surgery. Her eyes immediately lit up. Then your leg should be all better by next year. I couldn't bear to shatter her hopeful guess, so I smiled and replied it should be. The little girl jumped for joy. That's great, yay. One day after class, she led a handsome man into the studio and introduced him excitedly. Teacher Sophia, this is my uncle. His name is Vincent. Uncle, this is the Miss Sophia. I told you about the really beautiful teacher. Didn't you say you didn't believe me now that you've seen her in person? Yes, and she especially pretty. Vincent's face flushed red as he quickly covered Evelyn's mouth. Evelyn broke free from him and ran over to take my hand. Miss Sophia, I won a prize in the competition. This time you promised to grant me a wish. If I won, could you come to the amusement park with us? Her eyes were full of anticipation. I patted her head and smiled, of course. So I accompanied Evelyn and her little uncle to the amusement park. As we passed the rock climbing area, Vincent suddenly asked me, Teacher Sophia, dare to give this a try? I looked down at my legs, hesitating a little, but he gazed at me encouragingly, his eyes filled with trust. I took a deep breath and nodded. At that moment, I felt as if I had conquered the inner demons that had haunted me for so long. After that, things spiraled out of control. I ended up accompanying them through every imaginable outdoor activity. During a follow-up examination, the doctor looked at my leg and remarked with emotion, your foot is healing better and better. Once while playing an escape room game, I got so scared that I instinctively hid beside Vincent. He shielded me behind him, his voice low. Sophia, would you like to be with me? Zishuan said, she likes you very much. I asked softly, what about you? I like you too, he answered solemnly. In the darkness, I could feel my breathing becoming slightly rapid. If there were light, he would surely see my burning, flushed face. I said earnestly, Vincent, I need to be honest with you about some things from the past. When we stepped outside, I tightly grasped his hand as if holding onto a long-lost warmth. At that moment, the once broken and desolate places in my heart seemed to sprout oases anew. For a while, I came across news about Benjamin and Jessica online again. Jessica and Robert filed for divorce under the pressure of online public opinion. But Jessica never expected that Robert had ulterior motives when they got married. The Roberts family had long coveted the struggling Lynn family's assets and sought to take them over. After marriage, Robert gradually stripped the Lynn group of its power. He quietly took back all the money he had initially invested and even swept away the remaining assets of the Lynn family. Jessica got nothing when she divorced Robert. After losing everything, my parents and Jessica had no choice but to move into temporary housing crammed together in miserable conditions. Less than 2 weeks later, Jessica, annoyed by my parents' nagging, heartlessly kicked them out onto the streets. As for Benjamin, he had already vanished without a trace after my funeral, leaving the Lynn family behind. On the first anniversary of Vincent and I dating, we walked hand in hand by the river watching fireworks. Sophia, a furious voice suddenly rang out behind me. I looked up to see an unexpected person standing before me. Jessica's eyes burned with endless hatred as if flames were about to erupt from them. You wicked Sophia, I knew you weren't dead. How dare you fake your death? Jessica roared, her voice filled with rage and resentment. Sophia, do you realize you've destroyed the entire Lynn family? Her hair was disheveled, her face sallow, wearing an oversized t-shirt stained with grease and dirt. She looked utterly wretched. I sneered and retorted, destroyed? You're the one who schemed to marry Robert and plotted to send me to that rural school where I got beaten. If the Lynn family is ruined, it's by your own hands. You're simply reaping what you sowed. Provoked by my words, her gaze fell upon Vincent, and a knowing expression crossed her face. Oh ho, abandoning your husband at home and finding yourself a new lover already, Sophia, you truly are a shameless slut. I glared at her, my voice icy. Say one more word, and I'll tear your mouth apart. Jessica, oblivious to the danger, spat out even more venomous words. Hey, handsome, can this Sophia even satisfy you? Is she as boring as a dead fish in bed? Why don't you come to me? Instead, I know way more tricks than she does. I couldn't take it anymore, and slapped her hard across the face. Sophia, what are you doing? I turned my head and found my parents standing right behind me. They were also dressed in rags, their eyes still filled with disgust for me. I sneered, what am I doing? I'm teaching this idiot a lesson. My mother was furious. Apologize to Jessica right now. Vincent patted my shoulder and said softly, Sophia, don't waste your anger on fools. Let us go. Jessica blocked my path, and I snapped at her, get out of my way. My mother shouted at the top of her lungs, how could I have raised such an ungrateful daughter? To think a wicked seed like you came from my womb. I laughed bitterly. Do you still consider me your daughter? Where were you when I was hurt? You were having the time of your lives in Europe. My father glared in rage. Ungrateful girl, what kind of disgraceful attitude is this? Apologize to your mother and sister at once. I struggled to hold back the stinging in my eyes, my voice trembling as I spoke. Yes, 26 years ago you gave birth to me, yet you abandoned me to an orphanage. These past 20 years I've managed just fine on my own. It was you who begged me with tears to return to the Lynn family, promising to make it up to me. And what happened? You forced me into an arranged marriage, then banished me to the countryside without even hearing my side. When I became disabled, you turned your backs. Is this what you call making amends? No matter what mistakes Jessica makes, you always forgive and indulge her. But what about me? Where were you when my leg was being amputated? Search your conscience. Have you ever truly treated me as your own daughter? Jessica suddenly changed her expression, putting on a pitiful look as she choked back sobs. Sister, I know you think I stole mom and dad's love from you. You hate me, but you can't willfully destroy the Lynn family. I burst into laughter and sneered, enough, Jessica, stop pretending. How many underhanded tricks have you played behind my back all these years, fanning the flames, framing me? Wasn't he at all for the Lynn family fortune? You schemed with all your might, thinking you could manipulate both Robert and Benjamin, and look what happened. The Lynn family is ruined now, all thanks to you. I turned my gaze to our parents, my expression cold and resolute, as I declared I never wanted to compete with Jessica for anything. I couldn't care less about the Lynn family's wealth. From now on we have nothing to do with each other. With that I took Vincent's hand and walked away. Jessica's furious voice rang out behind me, Sophia, you damn bitch, go to hell. Before the words had even faded, she suddenly rushed forward and shoved me, sending me stumbling into the busy street. My body had no time to react. I shut my eyes in despair. But at that very moment a tremendous force suddenly pushed me aside. I staggered a few steps, opening my eyes in shock, only to see Benjamin lying in the middle of the road, covered in blood. His body was motionless, yet his eyes were fixed on me, his lips repeatedly murmuring, Sophia, Sophia. Jessica panicked at the sight and immediately bolted. My parents, equally frantic, hurried after her. An ambulance arrived quickly and rushed Benjamin to the hospital for emergency treatment. 3 days later Benjamin woke up. When he saw me, a flicker of joy flashed through his eyes before they reddened with emotion. Sophia, you're alive, thank goodness. I never expected to reunite with Benjamin under such circumstances. After the doctor finished rounds, I was told Benjamin had no serious issues. Sophia, how have you been these days? Benjamin's voice was weak as he spoke slowly. He quickly glanced at the pottery class advertisement lanyard hanging around my neck. Looking into his bloodshot eyes, I felt a mix of emotions and softly replied, yes, I'm fine. He gazed at me pitifully, his voice trembling slightly. But I haven't been well since your accident. I haven't had a single good night's sleep. I keep dreaming about the day you had that accident. I couldn't help but feel exasperated, my tone laced with sarcasm. Benjamin, what do you mean by that? Haven't you always loved Jessica? You only married me for Jessica's sake. It was you who had the mob break my arm and smash my feet. Shouldn't you be overjoyed that I'm gone? After all these years of friendship, you could cold-heartedly harm me for Jessica's sake. Who are you putting on this pitiful act for now? Benjamin shook his head violently, his eyes filled with urgency. No, Sophia, that's not how it was. I only told them to teach you a lesson, just for show. I truly didn't know they'd actually break your arm, nor did I know Jessica would deliberately have someone throw bricks to injure your feet. After you disappeared, I went to your school several times. It was only then the teachers told me about all the suffering you'd endured. His voice trembled slightly, his eyes brimming with guilt. I gently pulled his hand away, my tone icy. What's the point of saying all this now? Benjamin grabbed my hand desperately, his voice choked with tears. No, it matters. When I heard you were buried at the school construction site, my heart nearly stopped. I wanted to die with you. In that moment, I suddenly realized it's you I truly love. His voice trembled, tears streaking his pale face. Everything before was my fault. Hit me, curse me, do whatever you want. Just give me a chance to make it right, please. I wrenched my hand free, my voice resolute. It's too late, Benjamin. I've fallen for someone else. His eyes instantly flashed with shock as he shook his head in disbelief. No way. How could this be? How could you possibly love someone else? Sophia, are you deliberately lying to me? Yet soon after, a trace of relief surfaced in his expression, as if grasping at his last shred of hope. I get it, you're just too angry with me, and saying this on purpose, right? I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Let us start over. Okay, I'll change, I swear I'll change. Watching his fragile and pitiful demeanor, not a single ripple stirred in my heart. Any more focus on recovering from your injuries. I'm leaving. Behind me, Benjamin let out a barely audible whimper. The voice was filled with sorrow and regret, drifting in the wind, sounding particularly desolate. 9. Unexpectedly, Benjamin hadn't given up. A few days later, he appeared at the studio door. His eyes were fixed on me tightly, as if afraid I might vanish the next second. Come in and sit, I said to him. His eyes instantly lit up as he cautiously stepped inside, initiating conversation. Sophia, you always loved these things before. I never imagined you'd open a studio now. I responded indifferently. I used to work day and night at the company just to gain my parents' approval. It was exhausting. Now I no longer care about their opinions. I just want to do things that make me happy. After a moment of silence, he spoke slowly. All your things at home are still there, Sophia. Come back with me, okay? Let us start over. His eyes were filled with anticipation. We've known each other for so many years. Our lives are already marked by traces of each other that can never be erased. I can't live without you, Sophia. Forgive me, will you? At that moment, someone tapped on the window pane outside. I looked up to see Vincent holding a large bag of snacks, smiling at me as he said, I'm going to pick Evelyn up from school. Since you have guests, I want to come in. I gave him a gentle smile in return. Benjamin's face instantly turned deathly pale as he blurted out urgently, Sophia, is it because of him that you refuse to reconcile with me? Whatever he can give you, I can provide it all. If you prefer a carefree life, like wild geese among the clouds, we can move to a place with beautiful scenery and live freely. I forced a smile, but my voice remained steady and calm. I'm sorry, Benjamin, our marriage was built on lies and schemes from the very beginning, which is why it ultimately fell apart. Now that time has passed and things have changed, I no longer love you. If you still cherish even a shred of our past affection, then from now on don't come looking for me again. Let us preserve some dignity. Benjamin's face instantly fell, his lips trembling slightly, before he buried his head deep into his arms, shoulders shaking faintly. After that, Benjamin never came again, but he sent many master-level ceramic artworks through others. When I heard news of him again, they said he had already taken monastic vows at Jiyun Mountain. A few months later, I received a call from an unknown number. Hello, are you Alexander's daughter? Your parents are injured from a fight while living under the overpass. Could you come over, please? I rushed over to find out what was going on. It turned out that Jessica, having lost her status as a wealthy heiress, was completely devastated and spent her days drowning her sorrows in bars. By chance, she witnessed Robert passionately kissing his new lover. She recalled how Robert had embezzled all the Lynn family's assets and, consumed by rage, lost all reason. Snatching a fruit knife from the counter, she charged at Robert, only to accidentally stab the foreign model standing beside him in the ensuing chaos. The female model collapsed on the spot, dead on the spot, and Jessica was consequently arrested and sentenced to death. When my parents heard the news of Jessica's death, they nearly had a mental breakdown and ended up wandering the streets day after day. I sent them to a nursing home and paid for 50 years in advance. This might be the last thing I can do for them. From now on, the Lynn family and I have nothing more to do with each other. On the day Vincent and I got married, the director of the orphanage and many old friends came to attend. Everyone gathered together, drinking beer, singing songs, reminiscing about childhood memories, and cheering for our happy life. After marriage, Vincent and I co-founded a ceramics company. With exquisite craftsmanship and unique designs, our products quickly entered the international market, selling as far as Europe, and our business flourished. 3 years later, with a baby bump showing, I personally delivered a 20 million yuan donation check to the hospital director. The director was so moved, he nearly knelt before me. Holding Vincent's hand, my heart brimmed with warmth and gratitude. Before us stretched a sunlit path of happiness, with a future full of joy and delight. The end.